Post-Brexit, physical checks on food and plant imports after many delays are finally here, as of today. But how much will they cost us? For some individual importers of food and plants, especially small ones, the answer is a lot. The finance director of flour company Tom Brown Wholesale told the BBC he expected the checks to cost his business around £200,000 extra per year. But what about the overall costs of the new regime? Costs that will affect not just importing businesses, but most of which are likely to be ultimately passed on to us as consumers. The government puts the total costs at around £330 million extra a year, but analysis by some trade groups, including the Cold Chain Federation, have estimated it around 10 times that, between £2 and £3 billion a year. So which is right? Well, we asked the government for the details of their own analysis, but they didn't respond. But having looked at the trade group's analysis, the difference seems to be that the higher estimates take into account not only new official charges of around £29 per imported consignment, but also a range of indirect business costs resulting from the new regime of checks, like extra staffing.
It's going to be a significant cost. I suspect it's somewhere between those estimates, but it's certainly the government's estimate of 300 million looks pretty much on the low side, and I suspect does not include all the extra time and cost that these checks are going to involve.
The government did announce at the beginning of this month that it will not, initially at least, be checking every consignment, but rather between 1 and 30% of medium-risk commodities like eggs and milk. This might help reduce some bottlenecks and potential shortages on UK shelves, but inspection fees have to be paid regardless, so this doesn't remove the cost for importers. So the overall impact? Well, even new costs of as high as £3 billion a year would not be expected to change the downward overall direction of UK consumer price inflation, or even food inflation, which, as you can see here, is descending rapidly from its peak of almost 20% to 4% year on year in March. But any new costs will have some upward impact on prices relative to where they otherwise would have been. And it's a reasonable fear that some small retailers might not be able to survive as a result of these new costs, reducing the range of choice available to UK shoppers. And in terms of what can be done to alleviate these costs, well, Labour's leader Keir Starmer has argued a new animal welfare standards agreement with the EU could reduce these import frictions.
Labour's suggestion of a veterinary agreement probably reduces some of these checks. It probably doesn't eliminate them entirely. For that, you need to be part of the single market. That's what we've left.
And that is the bottom line. As was always clear, putting new regulatory barriers between our firms and our nearest and largest trading partners imposes an economic cost. What we await to find out, now the import barriers are finally here, is who precisely will bear that